And for us, it's there all the time. We just got to prove it to them. And that's where songwriting comes in. There's something I can see, so I put it into a song. Now you can see it too. And so then we share that bond then. We're both looking at the same image, the same story.
Believe me when I say, not everyone likes peace. Not everyone likes peace. Not everyone likes peace. Not everyone likes peace. It's just me, Bellissi.
Hello and thank you for joining me on this new episode. I'm Bellissi. I'm an independent artist, a producer, a writer, and general dream chaser. On this episode, I wanted to talk about how to write a hit song, or indeed the process that I go through when I write my songs. So if you've always been interested in songwriting, or you are a songwriter yourself, or you want to get into songwriting, then this episode is for you. I've probably written in excess of 500 songs, and if you include poems on top of that, then the number could double. That doesn't mean I've released all those as tracks. And in fact, a lot of them are just never left the page and are just upstairs in an attic somewhere. Definitely the songs that I was writing when I was a lot younger, they are in a box in the attic and probably making a nice bed for some little mouse that's come along, which is nice to think about. So before we get started, I just want to clear something up. And that is, can anybody write a song? And the short answer is obviously yes. It's like saying, can anybody walk or run or paint? Yes, of course we all can. Doesn't mean we can walk the wall of China or run a marathon tomorrow or indeed paint a Monet. But if we dedicate our life to that pursuit, then we will definitely give it a good go. But it's the same as everything. It just needs training the mind and the body to perform. For me, though, there's something that sets songwriters apart. And that is, we have the ability to tell a story. We are storytellers. We have something to say. We can see a person, an event, or even an object and create a whole story from that, a backstory, and even a future. And that's what I love about songwriting, is that we're able to bring something to life. And hopefully that's what the listeners get when they listen to a song, is that they're transported to another place, another time, or another emotion. For me, it's a kind of magic. Our minds are always creating, and we can see things that others cannot. And for us, it's there all the time. We just got to prove it to them. And that's where songwriting comes in. There's something I can see, so I put it into a song. Now you can see it too. And so then we share that bond then. We're both looking at the same image, the same story. And so my first piece of advice for anyone that wants to get into songwriting is simply write. And if you haven't begun writing already, then I suggest you start now. And for me, I prefer the pen and paper, at least to start with. So grab a pen and paper and start writing your story. And as soon as this episode's finished, maybe start writing something. For others, they might want to write on their phone or on their iPads or, on the computer or whatever, and that's fine. But I don't know, there's something about the pen and paper that it becomes more real. And I think because it takes longer, it engages the mind more and opens up the universe, and it sees you as a writer and starts feeding you stories. And that's something I believe in 100%, that the universe, your muse, your angel, is there waiting, and they're waiting to feed you these stories, these tales. All you've got to do is just to be open to them and receive this story. So all you've got to do really is find a nice quiet place, sit down and let the stories pass through you. And how easy is that? You're now a writer. So let's say you've got your writing pad, or you're on your computer and you're ready to write. My suggestion is you write every single day. And what you mustn't do is let those thoughts pass through you. And I'm an avid believer of this. There's thoughts out there, there's stories out there all the time, and they're just passing through the universe, and you just have to receive them. So as soon as you have a thought that comes into your head, write it down, own it. That is now yours. And by doing that, the universe, I believe, will then keep feeding you and feeding you, so you can elaborate on this story. And especially if it's going to become a song, feed you whatever you need to do that, the music or more lyrics, or indeed, a greater storyline. And if you don't grab them, those thoughts, those ideas will just pass through, and on to the next person they will go. There's a story about Michael Jackson that I can't remember which track it was, which song it was, but he was writing this song, and the guy he was working with, the producer or whatever, said, well, should we finish it tomorrow? He said, no, I've got to do it now, because if I don't, Prince will. And he obviously had that knowing that if he didn't do it, that thought, that story, that song is going to pass on to the next person, and he's going to grab it out of the air and work with it. And another thing, when they come through to you, these stories, these tales, these ideas, don't edit them. Just write them down. Just have this notebook and fill it. And when it's full, buy another one and just keep filling them. Don't edit them, just because later on you may want to pick things from it. But if you've edited it too much, you may lose the realism of it, or where the story was truly going. So don't edit too much. Just grab them, write them down, job done. And another thing you could do with that notepad is, if you're anything like me and the rest of the world, your phone you're on it all the time. You're taking pictures, picture of this, picture, oh, look what I've just had for dinner, snap. Oh, just met a friend, snap. Oh, look at this beautiful view, snap. So instead of doing that, write it down. So it will take a little bit longer, but once you get used to it, you will just jot notes down. And by doing that, again, you're training your mind to always think as a writer, as a songwriter, as a storyteller. So the next time, and actually as a test, for the next week or so, instead of taking a picture, write it down and do it just for a week and just see what tales you end up with. I mean, some of it is going to be describing a meal, but when you do that, you can describe the company, the atmosphere, the weather, your feelings at the time. And before you know it, you'll have a little story there, and you may want to start elaborating on things like that. And believe me, once you begin on this path, you will get an influx of ideas, For me anyway, it happened at 3 a.m, they'll be coming through, The universe doesn't clock out, it's there all the time. It doesn't know when you're sleeping. So, once you start on this path, those thoughts are just going to keep coming in. So don't dismiss them, don't edit them, write them down, and you will build this repertoire of stories, tales, and written images, if you like. When I first began writing, I started with poetry and short stories. Especially with the poems, that's great because it will start that rhyming aspect, which obviously you want for your songs. Saying that not all songs need to rhyme, not all poems need to rhyme, but I do, and I prefer that. And I think a lot of the listeners prefer that. I do when I listen to songs. But just to note that this is more of a practice. You may find that some of your short stories or poems could become songs later on. For me, that doesn't really work. A lot of my old songs and my old poems and stories have never left the page. But it has led me where I am here, and it does train the brain. So when you are in the studio and you've just composed a piece of music, your brain is ready to write a story. And as soon as you start with that first line, then your brain knows what to do, your mind knows what to do, the universe knows what to do, and it will feed you the rest, and it should come a lot easier. So as a first exercise, this is something that I like to do, or I used to like to do anyway, is pick a subject, a person ideally, and go through your notebook if you need to, and you may have some stories or some ideas there already. And some may find it easier to write about themselves, about their emotions, their inner thoughts. And now write 3 things down. So who is this person? What are they doing? And where are they going? Just a simple 3 questions. And you can go as crazy as you want with this. You can be, well, he's a test pilot. He's testing a new rocket and he's going to outer space. Something stupid like that. And now it's time to get into their head. Be that person. Think like them. Talk like them. Where are they? What are they? So say the test pilot, for example. So they're sat in that seat. They're ready. What does the seat feel like? What can they smell? Can they smell the leather? Can they smell the engine? Who's with them? Who are they talking to? What can they see outside the window? Are they apprehensive about what they do, or are they cool as fuck because they've done this a million times? Have they got anything else on their mind? Are they having a bad day? Did something happen? Did they have an argument before they got into this, into the cockpit? Things like that. And then where are they going? And start writing the story. Start thinking of your arc, the beginning, the middle, and the end. And start writing like that. Just keep it fairly simple. And once you've done that, congratulations. You're a writer. You're a storyteller. You've just told a simple story. When you read it through, it may not make a great deal of sense, but it's a story. It's all there. You've got the foundations of a story, of a possible future song. And I would do this again and again and again. And then I would get sort of into the routine of writing under sort of 20 lines, really. So you're already thinking of that song. So not a short story. You're coming away from that now. They're more of a song. So it's just a simple arc. And then once you've got a good number of these stories, then pick one that you think could be turned into a poem. And then that's your next job, is to turn that little short 20-line story into a poem. So now you're thinking of rhyming words and how they fit into each other, and how you keep in that arc as well. Don't get carried away with rhyming words, because sometimes, certainly earlier on when I started, I would lose words and put in another word just because it rhymed. But don't do that. Even sounds rhyme. Sometimes you can make that word fit just by going out at the end with a different consonant or something, So that's your next job. Turn it into a poem. Once you start doing that, certainly with me, you may find yourself sort of starting with a melody. You've got that poem going down, and you'll start, there's a beat to it, there's a rhythm to it, and you're finding it. Now, be open to that. You're being fed this melody, roll with it. And if you've got a phone with you or any recording device, record it. That could be the song. It could be someone else's melody, so be careful on that. But you're most probably being fed that melody. So just roll with it, record it down. Doesn't matter how it sounds. Might sound stupid to start with, but that could be the melody of the song. And a lot of my songs do start with that. I just mumble and get that melody. And melody sometimes can be hard to find. So if it comes to you in that way, grab it, record it. And so this leads on to another tip, and that's to always keep your phone or recording device with you. So if that ever happens, or more importantly, if you're just, sat down, walking around, and a line comes to you and you just end up singing this line, record it. It could be a line from a song that you've been listening to recently, or it could be something that's just come into your head that you've never heard before, or it could be an emotion that you're feeling. When I wrote the song for one of the last EPs, Push, and I was having a bad day, a shitty day, and I was making breakfast, and this line just come into my head, and I don't know if I can just go on. And I kept singing this line again and again and again and again. I was like, crap, quick, I need to record that. And so I recorded it, and went into the studio later, recorded the track Push. So these lines and these little melodies may just come to you. So you've got to record them straight away and be ready to work with them. And by doing this as well, you're telling your muse, the angels, the universe, you are a writer. This is your job now. This is what you do. And you'll just be fed so much more songs and tales, and that's it. You are a writer. Congratulations. I recognize that there's two types of songwriters out there. You have the one that's more of a lyricist, so they will just write the lyrics, as in the case of Bernie Taupin, and Elton John would then compose the music. And then the opposite of that is you have the complete songwriter, like myself, that will write the lyrics. So he is a lyricist, but is also a composer. And so it depends what you are, which one, where you want to go. That's absolutely fine. I find it a lot easier composing music as well, because that is how I start. Sort of 80 to 90% of my songs is started with the music. But when I first began, I was just a lyricist, really. I just wrote and wrote and wrote. Like I've said, I started with the poems, and then I started writing songs, but I had no instruments. I couldn't play any music. So it was just me singing, making the melody and singing. And I did write loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of songs like that. So it is just really loads of practice, and you will build up this huge repertoire of songs. And so later on, when you do sit in front of a studio, you start to compose music, or you are a composer, you've got something to go with. So I think the best way for me to explain how to create a song is to talk to you how I create songs. And I'll choose a track, for example, Skin. So that was off the album last year, 1974. And I often sit in the studio, and if I'm not mixing or I've got nothing sort of on at the moment, then I'll play guitar. And I do play the electric a lot, but most times it's the acoustic. It's easy. I pick up the acoustic. And on this occasion, I did come up with this very simple riff of 3-4 chords or whatever. And it was really eerie. And I knew that it was a very melancholy song. It was quite a dark song. So I recorded the guitar down. I expanded it a little bit. I put some bass and a basic drum track to it just to give it a filler. Doesn't mean that was the end result, the end drums and bass, but just something that I could listen back to and start creating that melody and that story. And I know that sounds quite easy, or I chuck some drums on it and chuck some bass. But once you've been doing it again and again and again, you will find it easy. And again, if you're really open and relaxed, you'll know instinctively what this track needs. You know what kind of bass. Is it complex or is it very simple? And the same with the drums. I mean, I'm a very basic drummer, so most of the drum tracks are going to be fairly basic. But the song will talk to you and say what you need, Does it need a full kit, or is it just a little kick and a little hi-hat now and again? And then once you've got that down, it's time for the melody and lyrics. And once you've been doing this some time, you'll feel comfortable with that. At first, it does feel a bit alien. You don't want to be sort of singing, mumbling and blah, blah, blah. But once you've done it a few times, you just feel comfortable doing it, and you'll mumble and find that melody. And for me, it comes really, really quick, that melody. And once I've got that melody, then I can start mumbling and filling in some of the possible lyrics, or at least maybe get an idea of what the story is. And the opening line to Skin comes straight away. Am I good enough to live in this skin tonight? And as soon as I had that, I knew what the story was about. And the rest of the song was easy to write. And you might find that as well, that once you found the melody and you start mumbling something and you get one line, it gives the song away. It gives the story away. So now you know what to do. You've got your foundation, or you've at least got quite a few parts of the jigsaw put in, so you know what the picture's going to be. You just got to put in the rest. With some songs, Shannon Day, for instance, I did have the name Shannon Day, but I didn't know what it was about or who she was or where she was going or anything. It wasn't until I got to the chorus and I was mumbling away and I got to the chorus, and that's what gave me the clue. That's what filled in the jigsaw, and I knew what this was about. So then I just go back onto the page and write the story. And this is where all your training comes in, all the work that you've done in the years before, all the notes that you've been writing, all the poems, all the short stories, because they're all in here. And more importantly, you've trained your mind as you would train a muscle. And so once you start writing, it knows what to do. It knows, oh, you're writing a song, or you're writing a story. I know how to write a story, and away you go. And another thing I do as well, especially on the first draft, is when you've got the melody and you sort of know where it wants to go, just write it down. Don't edit it too much, okay? Just be fed. Just be fed and just go with it. You can edit at the end. Don't worry about words that don't rhyme too well, or if this sentence is too long, just put it in until you've finished, and then you can edit. A lot of writers will tell you this as well. The key to writing is to write. You're not an editor. Do not edit until it's time to edit. If you keep going back, you'll never go forward. And then once it's down, it's time to record. Now, I'm quite loose when I record the first vocals, although I've got them all in front of me, and I will sing as close as what I've written as I can, but I do allow some freedom. And as I'm listening to the song and as I'm singing, if I feel like it needs to go somewhere else, then I'll take it somewhere else. I can always edit that out later or rewrite it. And in most cases, I think the truth comes out when I'm singing. And so the line that I may have written down is not the proper line, but when I'm singing, that was the line that needs to be used. And then you just go back and change it. And going forward, you will have to find which way works best for you. Like I've said, for me, it's easier for me to compose music first, but you may find it different. So you just need to find your own way and whatever works for you. And don't be restricted, if another day you want to try it a different way, just try it. And so I hope this has helped in some way and you've learned something. And I look forward to hearing what you've composed or your next hit. Never give up, and always remember you are an artist, you're a creator, and there's something massive in that. That's what on my down days, we're having a bad day, numbers not doing so well, plays are not doing so well, I'm an artist, this is what I'm meant to do, and the universe, I believe, will reward us. So thank you for joining me. Keep dreaming, keep chasing those dreams, and I'll see you next time. Please follow me on socials and let me know what you thought of this podcast or what you would like to see me do in the future. And go and have a listen to my music on Spotify, Apple and Amazon, etc. And tell me what you love about it. Till the next time, thank you and take care.
Believe me when I say, believe me when I say, believe me when I say, not everyone likes peace, not everyone likes peace, not everyone likes peace, not everyone likes peace. It's just me, Bellissi.